Hi, I'm Rick Green from Rick Wants to Know. Now, with all the tumult in the world these days, more and more of us are feeling overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, uncertainty, confusion, and the numbing mental fog that results from endless stress. Now, our patrons have been sharing strategies that they use to reduce or even eliminate stress. And some are familiar, regular sleep, better diet, exercise, being out in nature is a big one. The one that really surprised me was the number of people who have a hobby. They've found a pastime that provides relief and perspective on the world. It's recharging. And when I mentioned my go-to stress buster, a number of patrons asked to see it. All right, since all of my videos are answers to patrons' requests, here we go. Welcome to 1958. This is a small city, a place with lots of industry and lots of rail traffic. Now, this might seem like an odd hobby for someone who has trouble with attention, follow-through, impatience, and distraction. And yes, this may seem trivial or frivolous to you, but for me, for half a century, it's been a kind of meditative touchstone. And it's a different kind of hyperfocus than when I'm writing or performing. In fact, when I'm writing comedy, my mind is busy imagining scenes and dialogue and complications, and it's all happening up here. I actually look like I'm hypnotized. If it's really funny, okay, if I think it's really funny, I have this slightly manic grin. This is different. This demands I be here, be present, focused on every brushstroke, over and over and over, each knife cut. It may sound paradoxical. How can a hobby that requires precision and patience be relaxing? In fact, it doesn't so much require patience, rather, it draws me into a state of patience, being very present, focused on exactly what I'm doing. It absorbs me, I suppose a bit like a candle providing focus for a meditating monk. Maybe that's stretching it. And you may shudder at the thought of model railroading as I shudder at the thought of golf, but for me it's a kind of relaxational therapy. And it's not unlike yin yoga, which I do, or gardening, which I help out with, or walking in nature. It's almost the antithesis of writing for television. Here there's no deadline, no delivery date. Whereas if I want to revise and improve a script with a great new gag and a way better punchline, too late, it's been shot, edited, broadcast. There's no audience here except me, although friends visit and everyone's gobsmacked. There's no cast and crew to coordinate and work with, and I'm constantly able to edit, to improve, to add. The mistakes are correctable, and this is full of mistakes. But I work at my own speed. As I say, no deadlines, and it's quiet. No calls, no requests, no push notifications. The silence is lovely. And yet, I find having something playing in the background helps me with focus. Usually I just put on a documentary that I've seen before and I half listen, quarter listen, a 20th listen. Another difference is that, unlike writing, this is physical and it's slow, but it's instantly rewarding. I mean, I write a funny skit and it'll be weeks or months before an audience sees it in the studio, and then weeks or months before it's broadcast. Here, the positive feedback is instant. Unlike the laughter, it's always here. As well, I'm in charge, so I can express my own vision. No studio executive saying, you should make the husband more likable. Or, don't worry about it. It's good enough. People won't know the difference between an outside braced boxcar with arch-barred trucks and a steel boxcar with Andrews trucks. I'll know. So I get to set my own standard. I may not be hyper-focused when I retreat to down here, but it doesn't take me long to slow down, to relax, and slip into the zone. Zoned in rather than zoned out. Zoned out, for me, is an endless spiral of random, irrelevant, inappropriate, useless, and even anxiety-inducing hubbub, or lost in time wasters, the ones that just put my life on pause, scrolling, lost in a passive, vegged out state of semi-amusement by things I'm never going to remember. Nothing wrong in moderation, but some days I am shocked at how much time I spend online. And that's time I realize that I could be actively de-stressing, actually doing nothing, or unwinding by doing some exercise, doing some chores, going for a walk with my wife, sitting outdoors in the yard, watching the birds and the wild rabbits. That's nosy on the left. Or here, doing this. What I love is that there's always something to show for the time I spend here, something tangible. But hyperfocus is tricky because I'm not always in charge of it. I can become engrossed for way too long on something simple, shiny, odd, or fun. I'm almost hypnotized by a trivial task, never getting to what's important or urgent. Even here, I will spend a lot of time on little details, but then rush through the track work, and that leads to endless derailments. I've come to understand why I can become riveted on one activity, but not another, actually loathe another activity. The difference is it's interesting. Interesting. And interesting, like beauty, is in the eye and the brain of the beholder. What's interesting to my brain, what stimulates and engages and draws me in, might leave you semi-comatose. Yeah, I know, I get it. Don't need to apologize. Now, it could be that I'm focused on something worth doing, but just as easily something trivial, a puzzle game, or like this morning where I spent 15 minutes trying to eliminate a water stain on the sink, forgetting that David, our customer support wizard, had scheduled an online call. My point is that when I am hyper-focused on something useful or important, the hyper-focus can be a huge asset. Now, when I started out making scenery at age 10, the hobby was extremely primitive. Grass was bright Kelly green sawdust. The trees were fluorescent green balls of lichen moss on brown sticks. And roads, jet black, asphalt. It looked so toy-like. How come? Why? Well, I started noticing the actual real world. I was more present, more observant, actually looking at the world and seeing it as it is. Roads aren't black. They're 50 shades of gray. On a sunny day, a new sidewalk is almost white, and concrete is gray, and then it turns kind of a tan color, and eventually, after years, it even turns yellow. Tree trunks, brown, right? No, they're gray, except birch trees. Okay, so how do I create birch trees? Let me see. In what shape are they? I think I better look. And my favorite, of course, are all of the structures. I love building the structures. And then there are all the people, the figures. What a great way to keep my fine motor skills sharp. And then arranging the figures into little scenes, moments in time, little dramas that bring things to life. The warehouse workers out back, drinking and talking when they shouldn't be. The work crew clearing the dead trees. Gusts of wind blowing through the city. Uh-oh, traffic jam at the lumber yard. Come on, guys, move the board. Oh, there's an argument at the dairy. Finally, operations. That's when this becomes a big game. The scenery fades into the background. It becomes kind of the set, and the trains become the players, acting out on the set, each with its own character, the lazy local freight, the express train with the perishable goods. So many people find a hobby like this. It becomes a passion, a touchstone. One of our patron chat rooms is dedicated to hobbies, and it's amazing what folks do. Jewelry, weaving, spinning, making soap, needlepoint, painting, online games, tinkering in a workshop, baking, pottery, candle making. Did I say candle making? I don't know. Even Lego. Some patrons have Facebook pages or Etsy pages where they sell their creations. One is a very talented comic book artist. The hobby can become a passion for us. I hope you enjoyed the tour and heard something useful for yourself. If you're one of our patrons who asked to see the model railroad and explain how I managed to stick with it, thanks. I kind of do like showing it off.